What's going on, everybody? Welcome to week 3 of stage 2's key matches. It's hard to believe that we're already halfway done with stage 2. Things are moving so fast, but anyway, I'm sure that some of you are new to this series, so let me quickly explain how it works. So basically what I do is pick out games every single week that I recommend watching, and I usually give a brief explanation as to why I feel said game is important, and I give my score predictions too. And that's basically everything you need to know. It's a very simple video format. But anyway, there are a lot of potential good games on this week that I have to discuss, so without wasting any more time, let's get straight into things by taking a look at the Thursday games. Thursday night kicks off with the NYXL taking on the Fusion. Right away we have our first key matchup of the week. These two teams have an ongoing rivalry that stretches all the way back to the early stages of Season 1. These two teams have already played each other once this stage during Week 1, and the NYXL absolutely dominated. Will the NYXL do more of the same, or will the Fusion be able to hand the NYXL their first regular season loss? We're going to have to watch in order to find out. In terms of my score prediction, I'm going with a 3-1 New York victory. To put it simply, the NYXL are the superior team in the current meta. The Fusion haven't looked as good, and the NYXL also have the better player at pretty much every single position. Carpe is definitely a better DPS player than Nene, but Azaria is not at the same level. The Fusion are going to have to play much better and more disciplined if they even hope to make this game more competitive than the last time. Key match number 2 on Thursday will be the Defiant versus the Shock. On paper, this game seems like it'll more than likely be a blowout, but this game holds a lot of importance for Toronto. These guys are currently on a 3-game skid, and the way they lost in all of them doesn't exactly make things much better. Getting reverse swept, 3-1, and then 4-0 is pretty rough. Look to see how Toronto performs here. If they can at least look competitive against the Shock, then that'll be a good way to help them forget about the bad losses they've had lately. Since most people aren't giving them a chance in this game, I think if they can at least give the Shock a run for their money, then they'll start to feel a little bit better about themselves. Getting blown out or losing in heartbreaking fashion again could really be a recipe for disaster here. It's very hard to get out of a negative mindset when you feel like nothing you're doing is working, and this doesn't just apply to an esports team. The same can be said for any sports team in general. Losing badly over a long stretch of games can really hurt your confidence as a player and as a team. As much as I hate to say it, I have to go with the Shock 4-0. This is not a good matchup for Toronto at all. Facing a team that is much better than you while you've suffered multiple bad losses in a row will more than likely not end well for you. A win for Toronto would be massive since it would help put them on the right track, and it would also allow them to get some revenge for what happened in the Stage 1 playoffs, but I just don't see that happening. The Defiant need to face a team more around their skill level if they hope to turn things around. The final key matchup of Thursday is the Vancouver Titans versus the Dallas Fuel. This could very well be our game of the week. The Fuel are coming off of 2 statement wins in their Stage 2 debut, so I'm sure they're feeling pretty good right now. And the Fuel are a really dangerous team when they're confident. I feel like they just feed off of that positive energy they're feeling, and they play even better as a result. I feel like the Fuel match up pretty good with the Titans, so I'm expecting to see a tightly contested set. The Fuel might bust out some wacky strategies as well. Arrow is known for doing these types of things, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like this during the match. The individual matchups are also pretty exciting. The biggest and most exciting ones in my opinion are OGE versus Bumper and Note versus Janu. Both tank lines are really strong, and I think that both OGE and Note had really good outings during week 2, and if the two of them can keep up this level of play, then they should be able to contest Bumper and Janu. My prediction for this game is 3-1 Titans, but don't be deceived by the map score. I think this game ends up being much closer than the score implies. That's all I have to say about our Thursday matches, so now let's take a look at Friday. Game number 1 that I recommend watching is the one between the Fusion and the Outlaws. This is looking like a pretty big week for the Fusion. They have 2 rivalry games to be a part of. I'm not sure how many of you remember this rivalry from last year, but I'm sure that those of you who do can back me up when I say that these two teams played some really entertaining games. Their first 3 meetings last year all went to a final map 5 where the Fusion would end up taking the series. The Outlaws managed to win the last meeting of Season 1, and I'm sure they're really pumped up to try and get one win closer to tying up their head-to-head record with them. Another reason this game is important from the Outlaws side of things is because this is their first game after all of the social media drama that happened after their match against Vancouver. I don't really like reporting on drama, so be sure to look on Twitter if you're interested in learning more. I'm interested to see if the Outlaws let this drama get to them. If they play poorly against the Fusion, then that might be a sign that it's still bothering them. This game is not easy to predict at all. Both teams know each other pretty well, and they always play each other close, so I think I'm going to have to base my prediction off of this history and say the Fusion take it 3-2. I'm very much looking forward to seeing this rivalry be renewed. Game number 2 I recommend watching on Friday is the Valiant and the Justice. I know this game may seem like a bore, but it's pretty important for the Valiant. These guys finally got their first win of the season last week, and they managed to look competitive against the Gladiators in a loss. Can they keep up this level of confidence they showed and roll the Justice, or will they revert to that same team we saw before? Pay close attention to the Valiant. If they either lose or struggle to get the win, then that'll be an indicator that they are still not a good team and that they still have a long way to go before they can improve. I'm pretty confident that the Valiant win this game 3-1, but there's a possibility it ends up being a lot closer than that. That's everything I have to say about Friday, so let's keep things moving and talk Saturday now. Game number 1 between the Spitfire and the Uprising has definitely caught my attention. London has looked good so far, and they're off to a 3-0 start. Meanwhile, the Uprising are coming off of a tough loss against the Spark. One team is looking to keep their momentum rolling and look good to make stage playoffs, while the other one is trying to figure out how to decide a game before map 5. What's up with all the rivalry games on this week? Both London and Boston usually played each other pretty close last year. Both teams have 2 head-to-head wins each, so whoever wins this match is going to take the lead in that department. Another reason I recommend watching this game is because of the main tank duel. You'd think that Fusions would have the edge in the Rhine battle, but that may not be the case at all. Gestures look pretty good in Stage 2 so far, and it's hard to believe that he's going to slow down anytime soon. Something tells me this game is going to end up being really close, but I think the Spitfire win it 3-2. Call it a gut feeling if you will, but I see Gesture having a really good day. Something tells me that he's going to outplay Fusions on that final map of the set. The next important game is the one between the Fuel and the Dynasty, and hey, would you look at that, it's another rivalry game. Dallas, as I mentioned, is coming off of a very dominant week, and I'm sure they feel good about this one since they crushed Seoul the last time they played, and another reason to watch this game is to see what the Dynasty do with their lineup. Will they continue to keep Fleta and Fissure on the bench, or will we finally get to see the 2 best players on the team make a return? There's also a chance the Dynasty make even more weird unexpected lineup changes, so you definitely want to tune in to find out what happens. As for the result of this match, I think Dallas more than likely takes it 3-1. It's pretty clear that something is going on with the Dynasty internally, and I don't see them doing too hot against tough competition until they solve any potential problems they're having. The final big game on Saturday is between the Gladiators and Hunters. The Gladiators have been red hot lately, and the Hunters are also off to a pretty decent start. I'm really excited for this one. I'm interested to see how the Gladiators handle the crazy playstyle of the Hunters. Will they be like the other teams who beat them in dominant fashion, or will the wacky compositions of the Hunters throw them off? It'll be exciting to see if the Gladiators run mostly goats, or if they're willing to challenge the Hunters on DPS. Just thinking about Jinmu versus Decay, Hydration, and maybe even Surefour gets me pumped up. My prediction for this one is a 3-1 Gladiators victory. I feel like the Gladiators are going to be one of those teams who are not faced by the Hunters at all. Something tells me the Gladiators will be ready to deal with anything their opponents throw their way. And finally, we have Sunday, and first up is the Houston Outlaws versus the Shanghai Dragons. The main reason I have this as a key match is because I feel like both teams match up pretty well with one another. I personally think they're around the same skill level, so the likelihood of this game being at least somewhat close is pretty high. I feel like both teams are still trying to figure out some things, and what better way to do this than to play against a team you know you can beat? Pay attention to the flex support battle here. Raucus versus Luffy should be entertaining to watch, especially if Raucus plays the way he did against Vancouver. I predict that Shanghai wins this game 3-2 in the end, and what'll hopefully be a really entertaining game. And finally, the last key matchup of week 3 will be the Guangzhou Charge versus the Atlanta Reign. Both teams have been struggling a lot since the beginning of Stage 2, so this is a really good opportunity to help both teams get back on track. I feel like this is a must-win game for the Charge in particular. They haven't won a game in over a month, and Stage 2 has been really ugly for them. They've gotten swept in all 4 of their games this stage, so needless to say, they're in pretty desperate need of a win here. Stage playoffs are probably a no-go for them since they have an 0-4 record and a -16 map differential, but getting a win to help build your confidence back up could be beneficial for the future. You gotta try and win a few games this stage so you can help keep your postseason aspirations alive. Another exciting aspect of this match is watching Erster and Babybay versus Happy. This could be a lot of fun to watch if we see a fair amount of DPS being played. Something tells me this is the game where the Charge finally stop the bleeding and secure themselves their first win of the stage. That's why I'm picking the Charge to win 3-2. Welp, that's all of them. Those are my matches to watch for week 2. If you enjoyed today's content, then be sure to like and subscribe, and also make sure to let me know what matches you're looking forward to watching down in the comment section. As always, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.